When politics and the state get mixed up with true Christianity, which is to love your neighbour as yourself, you get persecution. Well, the parable of the Good Samaritan, it shows to love your neighbour, who can be from any religion. Go. So today's the 5th of February. Look, we got lots of snow, 2012. Anyway, just to say that they fled to America, and the Pilgrim Fathers, and they had to have their religious freedom and tolerance, as Jesus said. So Jesus said here, if you look at the Good Samaritan, who is your neighbour? And he says any religion is your neighbour. To pray with their eyes open, all sorts of things. Of course, they were forced to read out their sermons. They had to have a license to preach. So the Pilgrim Fathers, they left here on the second attempt. We remember up there in Hull, there was an attempt to leave as well, the Pilgrim Forefathers, and they got caught when the tide went out. The boat was left in the estuary, and of course the soldiers caught them all. And but the men had escaped by boat elsewhere, and they didn't know what to do with them, the authorities, so they just let them go. And so they left from Hull estuary, and they went to, of course, via Holland and that, to America. So the Puritans, yeah, they were persecuted, but of course they had stopped half of the wage packets of the ministers in their time when they were ruling. They were in power. Of course, Cromwell, he took over the country and that, and they ruled this country for a while, the Puritans, and they banned this and they banned that, and you know, you weren't allowed to do this and that. So so the Puritans, anyway, when they were persecuted, they had all their money stopped, and they were persecuted and forced into hiding, and they had to privations, and they had to do their writings with privations. Well, in this day and age, people are being persecuted. We're here in China, and they're fleeing by boats and coming over to our countries in the Western world. So these buildings then, so they left, like that little barn hole, see it? Took flight. And well, this baby fox is crying for his mum, who just stole a chicken, and the farmer has lost the chicken, and he's all alone, look. And the children and the mothers were separated as well on those boats when the Pilgrim Fathers left for America. Blessed are ye when men shall revile you and persecute you, and say all manner of evil against you falsely for my sake. Then he said, rejoice and be exceeding glad, for great is your reward in heaven, for so persecuted they also the prophets which were before you. So this is what we have to look at, the persecution of the Puritans. They were driven to another country, and we see persecution going on even in this day in many countries. She walked. Wow. So hilarious. Oh no, headbanger. Dear. So Paul says we should walk as children of light, and that we should not be drunk with wine wherein is excess. And for we wrestle not with flesh and blood, and we are to take the helmet of salvation. When John Huss was martyred, he said, the singing of the swan you will not silence 100 years from now. And that's when Martin Luther banged with his 95 Thesis on the door, and the Protestant Reformation spread throughout Europe. So fleeing from this country, they wanted freedom. The Puritans wanted freedom from persecution to preach and to... So this is Hull, where the Puritans left. And it was on the boggy marsh the ladies with the children got caught. So they got caught by the soldiers. But Jesus said, when they persecute you in one city, flee to another. In the Old Testament in Ezekiel chapter 6 verse 4. There's the fox. He's lost his mummy. And the farmer lost a chicken. And God said, one day shall be... Well, in Ephesians, that Jesus is the head of the church. He was Hull, the bridge. The king said that he was head of the church in England. And over this issue, many were put to death. So, of course, we should render to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and to God what belongs to God. How about bringing in the new year in? And Jesus said, the sea always a roar. Well, what roars on the sea will roar on the land. I tell you what, this is all happening. As Jesus predicted. Scotland has had storm on storm on storm. Hurricane after hurricane. Of sinners are to receive judgments from God, the cup of his wrath. The skies would be darkened, the third part of them, like huge volcanoes all over the earth, and massive wars, and wormwood and gall, bitter, destroying, polluting the sea and the land. And third part, it talks about the great of the stars, as it was a lamp falling to the earth. It sounds like the bomb. And third part of every creature in the sea. Well, pollution around the world is doing that already. Revelation chapter 9, I think, is from the beginning of the 1900s, when the smoke came out of the pit, which was like the factories which produced the bombs, which brought these, what they call scorpions, on the face of the earth, with power to sting for that many 150 years. 150 years I get from that 5 months, taking a day for a year, as prophetic. Yeah, big old oak, 500 years old. Chapter 9 verse 4, they should not kill any green thing, and they shouldn't kill the trees. Do you know what? In war, they only kill humans, they're not to kill the land. The men would seek death but couldn't find it. Like the nuclear bomb causes such a horrible, slow death. It's pretty unusual. That's today's date. Signs in the sun, the moon and the stars. Distress of nations. So Jerusalem shall be trodden down till times the Gentiles are fulfilled, which was the last one for the British. And there you have it. There shall be signs in the sun, the moon and stars. On earth distress of nations with perplexity, the sea waves roaring. That's this century, all this is happening, men's hearts failing them. Look at the increased storms we got now. And we'll see a lot more volcanoes going off just before the end of the world. Yeah, storm after storm, 2011 to 2012. It's these days of the nuclear bomb, you know, the First and Second World Wars. Look at that there, it says the faces of men were on these sort of creatures or something, with breastplates of iron, spat out fire, brimstone and smoke. See, people might think that's